Chapter 11 Rock Snake. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You are quite well prepared. You even have your night clothes. Next to the woods on the cliff, Lin Feng used the scattered faint moonlight to see clearly the little medical fairy's attire at this time, and smiled. Hearing this, the little medical fairy in tight black clothes rolled his eyes at the former and said angrily, "No matter how well prepared you are, you still haven't been taken advantage of. Hey, I'm here, but I can't guarantee your safety. What if you, a weak woman who is not strong enough to fight, encounter a monster at night?" That while speaking, Lin Feng took a step forward and looked at the dark bottom of the mountain, then he turned around and said with a smile, "Let's go down, it's better to get the things early." "All right." With a slight nod, the little doctor quickly took down the 2 torches that had been prepared on his back, then he took out the fire from his arms and lit it. "Take it." Passing one of the torches to Lin Feng, the little medical fairy took out a long rope from his arms. He shook his head towards the former and said with a smile, "You are a grown man, surely you won't watch a weak woman like me take the lead, right?" Holding the torch, Lin Feng glanced at the little medical fairy with a gentle smile and shook his head slightly. In the novels and movies he had read, there were too many cases where the protagonist or villain was betrayed by the woman he liked, leading to failure. Naturally, he would not be stupid enough to repeat the same mistake, although he is right to have thoughts about the little medical fairy, but now, he is not sure about the little medical fairy's attitude towards him, so it is naturally impossible for him to give his back to her. Shaking his head, Lin Feng said calmly, "Let's go down together. I'm a little worried about you, a weak woman, who has attacked me before." "Humph, you are still a grown man, but you have a small belly." Seeing Lin Feng's appearance, the little medical fairy muttered softly, but she did sneak attack on the former before, so it was hard to say anything more. "I only have one life, and I can't afford to play around with it. What's more, if I smile for a Pomeranian and put myself in danger, I can't do such a stupid thing." Lin Feng ignored the dissatisfaction of the little medical fairy and said casually. Seeing that the little medical fairy wanted to refute anything, Lin Feng looked at the moon in the night sky and said, "Will it go down? If we delay it any longer, it will be dawn. Go. I want to take away all the good things." Looking at Lin Feng's hateful smile, the little medical fairy kicked the small gravel at his feet angrily, and a crisp sound came from the clenched silver teeth. Seeing the angry look of the other party, Lin Feng raised the corner of his mouth slightly and tied the rope to a thick tree. After pulling hard and making sure it was safe, he opened his arms to the little medical fairy and said, "Come on, I'll take you down. What do you want to do?" "I can go down by myself." Seeing Lin Feng's action, the little medical fairy subconsciously took a few steps back and said with a blushing face, "Okay, you can act alone, but let me remind you first, no one can guarantee whether there will be any terrifying monsters under the cliff at night. You, a weak woman who is not strong enough to fight, must be careful of being eaten in one bite." Looking at the shy and angry little medical fairy, Lin Feng suddenly started to tease him and smiled. "You bastard, you're going to scare a weak woman like me." Along with the clear voice of anger, a gust of fragrant wind rushed towards Lin Feng. Immediately, a soft and fragrant body crashed into Lin Feng's arms, making his heart tremble violently. "If you dare to use your hands or feet, I will die with you." As the threatening voice of the little medical fairy fell, Lin Feng took a deep breath and suppressed some of the evil fire that was about to stir up. Lin Feng stretched out his arms and wrapped his arms around the most perfect slender waist he had ever seen. With his arms tightly wrapped around the soft waist, Lin Feng felt momentarily absent-minded. "Aren't you leaving yet?" Just when Lin Feng was reminiscing about the softness in his arms, the little doctor's voice of shame and anger rang in his ears. "Sorry, I was just thinking about something." Lin Feng made some embarrassing quibbles, and then said, "Now prepare some poison and hold it in your hand." "Why?" the little medical fairy asked puzzledly. Lin Feng smiled mysteriously and said, "Didn't I say it before? Who knows if there will be any magical beasts under the cliff at night? And I have to hold the rope with both hands, so it's inconvenient to take action. You should prepare some powder first in case of an accident. And can also use medicinal powder to attack." "Okay, what you said makes sense." Hearing this, the little medical fairy looked around, took out a paper bag from his arms, and held it in his hand. Seeing that she was ready, Lin Feng hugged the beauty in his arms tightly again, grasped the rope tightly, jumped lightly, and slightly relaxed the rope with your right hand. Their bodies began to slide down the dark cliff. After a while, with the slight friction sound of Lin Feng's palm and the rope, the two of them had descended some distance. Seeing that the height seemed to be very close to the entrance of the cave, Lin Feng began to grasp the rope tightly with his right hand. The falling figure slowly hung in mid-air on the cliff. Taking a long breath, Lin Feng lowered his head and looked at the little medical fairy who had hugged him tightly. He couldn't help but chuckled softly, turned his eyes around the dark surroundings, and asked, "Can you find the location of that cave?" Hearing Lin Feng ask about business, the little medical fairy let out a heavy breath, relieved the tension caused by the continuous fall, and glanced around. In his mind, he briefly recalled the distance he had slid down during the day, and said softly, "If I remember correctly, it's not far below." Hearing this, Lin Feng nodded slightly and reminded in a low voice, "Okay, let's slide over in one go and hold me tight." Hearing this, the little medical fairy hesitated slightly. However, when Lin Feng's right hand holding the rope turned into a virtual grip, the two men suddenly began to fall rapidly. The little medical fairy screamed in surprise, and quickly hugged Lin Feng's waist, burying her face in the latter's arms, not daring to move. Seeing that the distance was about the same, Lin Feng lowered his head and said, "Throw the torch over to see the situation." "Oh." The little medical fairy nodded with a pale face and released the torch in her hand. Suddenly, under the influence of gravity, the torch quickly fell towards the dark place below. With the help of this meager firelight, Lin Feng also vaguely saw the hidden cave not far below. However, when he saw that he was about to arrive at his destination, he did not relax at all. Instead, he looked around cautiously, because he knew that there might be monsters nearby. Suddenly, Lin Feng felt that the pores all over his body suddenly shrank, and his toes hurriedly kicked hard on the mountain wall. Lin Feng's figure bounced in the opposite direction of the cliff amid the screams of the little medical fairy. With the help of the firelight that had not been completely extinguished, Lin Feng saw a long brown shadow suddenly flash past him and the little medical fairy. Seeing that the ambush monster finally appeared, Lin Feng breathed a sigh of relief and said calmly, "Rock Snake." Chapter 13 In the Stone Chamber. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 12 In the Stone Chamber, Rock Snake. This is how to do. Hearing the word rock snake, the young medical fairy trembled and asked hurriedly. She has also heard of the reputation of this kind of monster, which is difficult for ordinary high-level fighters to kill. Rock snake, as the name suggests, is a snake-shaped monster that lives in rock walls. With a level of about first level, this kind of magical beast can soar in the air like a falcon due to its body being as flat as wings. Moreover, because the attribute of this monster is a mutated stone attribute, therefore, its body is as hard as stone, and it is difficult for ordinary swords to cause much damage to it. If it were normal, Lin Feng would encounter this rock snake alone. With the low-level Xian-level fighting skills in hand, I believe he will win soon, but in this kind of terrain, it is indeed a bit troublesome, but fortunately, he has been prepared. He looked up at Lin Feng, who was walking slowly in front of him. He hesitated slightly, then quickly took a few steps and followed him closely. Thump. Hearing this, the little medical fairy hurried over, took a look, and said happily, "This should be it, open it quickly." Walking in the quiet and dark cave, a faint chill lingered around me. In addition, in the three corners of the stone room, there were many golden coins piled up, the total number of which was probably hundreds of thousands. "Aren't you afraid of traps?" Lin Feng replied with a smile, controlled the strength with his palms, and slid towards the cave again. Lin Feng and the little medical fairy finally saw the entire cave left by their predecessors. If he hadn't asked himself to prepare the powder before he came down, what might have happened now? In the last corner, a small flower bed was piled with soil. The little Dr. Fairy's palms suddenly opened, and all the white powder in the palm was sprinkled on the rock snake. These seemingly ordinary flowers and plants, but in terms of value, are much more real and valuable than those piles of gold coins. Seeing that the little medical fairy recovered, Lin Feng touched the cliff again, the figure swayed again and quickly approached the direction of the rock snake. After all, whether you are buying medicinal materials, prescriptions, or fighting, Skills, you must have enough gold coins. However, perhaps due to the passage of time, these knife carvings have become extremely blurry. The little medical fairy nodded with some disappointment. On the bluestone platform, 3 locked stone boxes were placed neatly. As the stone door moved upward, a faint light emitted from inside the stone door, driving away all the darkness nearby. You will know more of my abilities in the future. Okay. Makes sense. Lin Feng nodded in response, then pressed his fingers slightly, and a crunching sound slowly sounded in the cave. Hearing this, the little Dr. Xiandai frowned slightly, took 2 steps forward, looked at the stone gate, and said in deep thought, after the stone gate, it should be our destination. Since this predecessor will cast a cave here, I think he won't create a situation with no way out. The young man in front of him suddenly stopped. Okay. After a moment, he stamped his feet, gritted his silver teeth, and followed. Seeing that the danger was over, the little medical fairy breathed a heavy sigh of relief and looked at Lin Feng with admiration. However, there is a faint light emanating from it, and it looks quite mysterious. This appearance, in this quiet atmosphere, looks a bit eerie. The little fairy doctor smiled slightly, but took 2 steps back. Then he raised his white chin towards Lin Feng and chuckled, "Here, go in." After landing, the little medical fairy hurriedly broke away from Lin Feng's arms, and then looked at the entrance of the cave behind the rubble with a pretty smile. "No problem, whoever goes in first has priority. The entrance of this cave is not wide and can only accommodate 2 or 3 people. The cave is dark inside." Lin Feng naturally knew this and said casually, "Then there must be an agency nearby, let's look for it." Row. Lin Feng suddenly stopped moving forward, causing the little medical fairy to be unable to regain his strength, and finally bumped into Lin Feng's back. Then, under the action of the elastic force, his body took a few steps back uncontrollably. "Let's go," Lin Feng said casually. "With this senior's strength, if he really wants to set a trap, it's just the 2 of us. No matter how cautious we are, it's useless." After a while, Lin Feng found a small bump on one side under the stone door, and said to the little doctor who was bending down to look for it on the other side, "The mechanism is here." Hearing Lin Feng's shout, the little medical fairy who was in panic came back to her senses and remembered that Lin Feng had asked her to prepare medicinal powder in advance. It smashed heavily into the bottomless valley. Smiling at the little medical fairy, Lin Feng took out the fire seal from his body, and then walked into the dark cave first. Looking inside the dark cave, the little medical fairy hesitated. Soon, Lin Feng used his toes for the last time on the mountain wall, and their bodies flew through the air, finally landing firmly at the entrance of the cave. The little medical fairy subconsciously crossed her arms to block the previous collision. She looked at Lin Feng's back with a blushing face and said in embarrassment, "What are you doing?" That the dark surroundings made the little medical fairy hug each other involuntarily. In the flower bed, various flowers and plants are planted, and a strange fragrance lingers among them. He moved his eyes away from the brilliant gold and scanned the stone chamber, just when the little medical fairy couldn't stand it anymore. The silence in the passage was so dark that it could drive people crazy. In this environment, only the young man in front of her could give her a sense of security. The white powder collided with the rock snake, and the powder suddenly filled the sky and enveloped the rock snake. Looking at these flowers and plants, Lin Feng and the little fairy doctor took a few steps almost at the same time. Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up when he saw those gold coins. He still needed the gold coins very much. Lin Feng smiled and shrugged, then walked straight in. In the quiet passage, there were only the faint sounds of the 2 people's footsteps. After the 2 of them worked together to clear away the debris, there was no longer any cover from trees and gravel. The previous ambiguous contact also made Lin Feng breathe out a heavy breath. In the center of the stone chamber, there is a seat. On the seat, a dead skeleton sits on it. The deeply sunken skull falls on the pale thigh bone. Although others don't know these things, they know it well. She originally wanted to show off her machine skills, but she didn't expect that Lin Feng didn't give her a chance at all. Looking at the little medical fairy in his arms who turned pale with fright and was in a daze, he shouted loudly, "Wait a while and I will swing over. You aim at the right time and use medicinal powder to stun it. When all the stone gates move up, look at the illuminated interior of the stone gate. There are many marks like knife carvings around the entrance of the cave." Hearing this, the little medical fairy also hurriedly followed Lin Feng's back. when the rock snake was only a few meters away from the two of them. When they entered the stone room, the sight in front of them suddenly became wider. Inside the stone gate is a huge stone chamber. The stone chamber looks a bit simple and empty. The walls are inlaid with moonstones for lighting. He coughed in embarrassment, pointed to a stone door in front of him that emitted a faint yellow light, waved his hand and said, "There is no way ahead." "What? I didn't expect you to be really capable besides bullying women." In such a quiet atmosphere, I walked for about 10 minutes. In front of the seat, there is a rather wide and long bluestone platform. Seeing Lin Feng going against his previous caution and becoming so bold, the little medical fairy said in panic. Finally, he stopped at the last corner. With a hint of joy on his face, the yellow shadow struggled in the white powder for a moment, then fell stiffly from the air. Thanks to book friend 20210301104148357470 for the recommendation vote. Thanks to Wang Tirin for the recommendation vote. New author, please recommend. Chapter 14, Remaining Pictures. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 14, Remnant Picture: Purple blue leaves, white ginseng fruit, snow lotus seeds. Her beautiful eyes stared blankly at the small flower bed, and the names of rare and hard-to-find high-grade medicinal materials popped out from the little Dr. Fairy's rosy mouth. Lin Feng stepped forward and looked at these medicinal materials with great joy. These medicinal materials in the stone chamber are generally valuable, and they are basically medicinal materials used to refine third and fourth grade elixirs. Although Lin Feng is only a second-grade alchemist now, he believes that he will be able to use these medicinal materials to refine elixirs in less than 2 years. His eyes moved across the small flower bed, and finally, he stared at the alternating white and red grass blades in the center of the flower bed. The leaves of this grass are white and red in color. The white branches are covered with little ice crystal-like objects, and the fiery red grass crown is like a ball of flame burning, two completely opposite colors and attributes, but strangely growing on the same plant, is really magical. A light mist surrounds this plant. It looks quite a bit like being in the clouds. This strange blade of grass is called Ice Spirit Flame Grass. After hearing this, the little medical fairy raised her eyebrows, squinted at Lin Feng, and said with some suspicion, her dream since childhood was to become an alchemist, but her fighting spirit attribute lacked fire. Although Lin Feng cannot refine the blood lotus pill now and does not have a strange fire, no one can say whether he will get a strange fire tomorrow. Hearing this, the little medical fairy was shocked, but when he saw the medal in Lin Feng's hand, he immediately said angrily, "Is that the medal of an alchemist apprentice? After all, Meiji is not cheap. The lowest one costs 70,000 gold coins, which is beyond the reach of ordinary people. Elixir? Only pharmacists can refine that thing, and it's extremely expensive. Do you have it?" Seeing the self-pitying look on the little medical fairy's face, Lin Feng shook his head and continued, "As for the second-grade medicinal liquid, called Purple Orchid Spiritual Liquid, it can help people in the Dou power stage speed up their cultivation. As for Dou otherwise, it will have no effect." Although due to the limitations of her attributes, she could only settle for becoming a doctor, but she still yearned for an alchemist. After sizing up Lin Feng, he suddenly felt a little more curious about his identity. Obviously, he didn't quite believe that Lin Feng could come up with the pills he mentioned. Quickly putting the jade bottle into the ring, Lin Feng cracked the corner of his mouth and handed the spatula in his hand to the little medical fairy, signaling her to start digging for herbs. Let's just say it. I'll help you pick the medicine later." Lin Feng took out the alchemist apprentice medal and said, "Alchemist." Then he took out a small jade shovel and carefully dug up the soil next to the Ice Spirit Flame Grass. Seeing the little medical fairy agreeing, Lin Feng took out many exquisite jade bottles from the ring in his hand. When the little medical fairy saw Lin Feng's movements, he exclaimed, then hurriedly took several jade bottles and said in surprise, "What a nasty guy. He wants the most precious things as soon as he opens his mouth." Her dream since childhood was to become an alchemist. His gaze had been watching Lin Feng send the Ice Spirit Flame Grass into the ring, and then the little medical fairy reluctantly looked back. Lin Feng looked at his medal, and then retorted, "What do you know? I'm just too lazy to take the test. Those pills in your hand were all made by me. Is this an elixir?" It's certainly not comparable to how I use ordinary flames to roughly fuse the medicinal materials together. Hearing this, the little medical fairy suddenly frowned and muttered reluctantly. Ah. Okay. Lin Feng nodded and agreed. It would not cost him anything anyway. Lin Feng chuckled lightly, took out the Neji in his arms and wiped it. Several jade bottles appeared in his hands, and then he threw them to the little medical fairy. The little hand opened one of the jade bottles and poured out a bright red pill. Seeing Lin Feng's confident look, the little medical fairy believed Lin Feng in her heart, and her face suddenly became a little more flattering. She put her hands together and said enthusiastically, looking at the roundness and luster on the surface of the elixir. The little medical fairy sighed and said helplessly, for a medicine lover like her, getting a rare medicinal herb is far more thrilling and exciting than getting hundreds of thousands of property. Blood lotus pill, a 5th-grade elixir, will form a layer of strange energy blood flail on the surface of the human body after being taken, and this layer of blood flail can withstand extremely hot temperatures. Hey, Lin Feng, can you let me watch next time you make medicine? Well, I want this. Seeing Lin Feng agreeing, the little medical fairy immediately became elated and agreed to the medicinal material distribution plan proposed by Lin Feng. Hey. Seeing Lin Feng staring at the ice spirit flame grass excitedly, the little medical fairy couldn't help but said in surprise. Neji? Hee. After glancing at the little medical fairy who was carefully digging for medicine, Lin Feng then looked at the white bones in the center of the stone room, but thinking of Lin Feng's promise to him, he took the small shovel and began to carefully dig out the cherished herbs from the flower bed and put them into the warm jade vase. Do you know this thing too? In my heart, I already believed most of what Lin Feng just said. Nodding, Lin Feng turned his head and stared at the little medical fairy. Looking at the still somewhat depressed look of the little medical fairy, Lin Feng chuckled, and then said, well, I will choose the herbs here first. As compensation, I will give you 5 first-grade elixirs and 3 bottles of second-grade medicinal liquid. How? Suddenly, a fresh medicinal fragrance wafted out and filled the small stone room, refreshing her spirits. Furthermore, using the ice spirit flame grass and the blood lotus crystal obtained not long ago from Wanyao Zhai, one can definitely trade extremely good things from some alchemists who need it. Although she knew that the alchemist didn't like others to disturb her when refining medicine, she really didn't want to miss this precious opportunity. Finally, together with the soil, they were gently put into the jade bottle. How come you have such a treasure? It is generally extremely difficult to find in the outside world, and this herb is also necessary for refining the blood lotus pill. Okay, I'm giving you the elixirs, not to hurt you. These elixirs are called hemostatic elixirs. As the name suggests, they can help people who have been injured to stop bleeding quickly. However, after all, they are only first-class elixirs. Some are too serious. With his injuries, there may not be much he can do. Carefully putting the elixir back into the jade bottle, the little medical fairy looked at Lin Feng and asked curiously, therefore, only with the help of its effect, can it be possible to get close to the strange fire, and look for opportunities to take the next step towards it. He strode forward, rubbed his hands, and put his palms together with a feeling of weakness. After bowing to it, he carefully picked up the key in Bai Gu's hand, then he muttered an apology silently, and with a little force, he broke the bone of Bai Gu's arm, put it on his hand, closed his eyes slightly, and looked inside. Lin Feng looked through the fracture above and saw a small scroll hidden in the gap between the bones. Thanks to bookfriend 201906006003426025 for the recommendation vote. Adorable new author asking for recommendations. Chapter 15 Got something. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This should be one of the 4 fragments left by the pure lotus demon saint. Thinking of this, Lin Feng's breathing became uncontrollably heavy. This thing is an item left behind by a powerful person at the peak of the 9-star fighting saint. Even if it is a quarter, it will be the highlight item in some high-end auctions in Central Continent. Even if the asking price is a heaven-level skill, there will be a lot of strong people willing to exchange it. Suppressing his excitement, Lin Feng put his index finger in and took it out. Then he turned around and saw that the little medical fairy hadn't noticed this, and quickly threw the broken picture into the Neji. This thing was too important, so he didn't tell the little medical fairy yet. After doing this, Lin Feng carefully placed the bone arm next to the bones and buried it with the bones. After a while, he took the key to the stone table and touched the metal lock, only to find that it was slightly warm. Lin Feng raised his eyebrows. It could still maintain its temperature after a long period of time. It seemed that the material used in this lock was not ordinary metal. Looking at the little medical fairy who put away the colorful scroll, Lin Feng smiled slightly and suddenly said lightly, "What is this?" The little medical fairy came over curiously and asked. Lin Feng took out a colorful scroll and took a closer look. It was the 7-colored poison sutra. The second stone box went very smoothly. He got the key right the first time. Lin Feng stretched out his hand and took out the black scroll from the box. "I know, this is yours, right?" Lin Feng shrugged, took it out, and replaced it with another key. Seeing Lin Feng's actions, the little medical fairy immediately understood what he meant and nodded helplessly. After thanking him gratefully again, the little medical fairy quickly collected the green powder in his hand. "Hey, everyone takes what they need." Obviously, what she hopes most in her heart is to become an alchemist like Lin Feng, rather than a poison master that makes people hate and fear. Speaking of this, a trace of sadness appeared on the pretty face of the little doctor. After the little medical fairy put away the remaining bottles, Lin Feng licked his lips, randomly selected one of the 3 keys, then grabbed the iron lock and reached in. Then there was only a click sound in the stone cave, and the first stone box was successfully opened. Seeing Lin Feng's expression, the little medical fairy also looked over curiously, blinked in confusion, and asked, "Flying fighting skills? What is it?" However, her little hand also quickly put away the jade bottle on the stone table. It seemed that she was also a little impatient to see what the items in the stone box were. As the name suggests, this fighting skill allows people to fly in the sky. Lin Feng explained with a smile. After replying casually, Lin Feng walked towards the next stone box. Then he walked to Lin Feng with more than 10 small bottles in his arms, placed them on the stone table, looked at Lin Feng and said, "Here, these are all the medicinal materials, you choose." Hearing this, the little medical fairy was shocked at first, and then became confused again, but when she thought of Lin Feng forcibly sharing this cave with her, she suddenly felt angry and took Neji over. Shaking his head helplessly, Lin Feng held the last key tightly, inserted it into the keyhole again, and then moved it slowly. Lin Feng looked at the scroll and said, "A poison book that records how to prepare poisons. You can't snatch this thing from me. Because of my natural attributes, I can't become an alchemist, so I have to rely on these things." Hearing what Lin Feng said, the little medical fairy suddenly breathed a sigh of relief and nodded gratefully towards the former. Seeing her appearance, Lin Feng urged, "Yes, it's just the lowest level of Neji. Hurry up and put away the medicinal materials. I haven't looked at the contents of the stone box yet." When the little medical fairy saw such a valuable item, she subconsciously wanted to refuse it. She had heard about attack fighting skills, defensive fighting skills, body fighting skills, etc., but this was the first time she heard about flying fighting skills. Lin Feng picked it up and saw that it was the advanced Xian level fighting skill used by the villain Moose Snake in the original novel, Crazy Lion. Looking at the red ring in his hand, the little medical fairy couldn't help but feel a little excited. "You should be able to put away the things in your hands, right? Although I am not a gentleman, at least I am a companion with you now. I can't do this kind of thing alone. You are a woman after all. It doesn't matter if you come alone to hunt for treasure with me, and be prepared." After taking a closer look, I immediately felt happy. This scroll was exactly the Xian level advanced flying fighting skill, Eagle Wings. He turned his head and looked at the little medical fairy who had completely dug up the medicinal herbs. He smiled and said, "Come here quickly, lest you say I want to devour it all if I open it privately." Hearing this, the little medical fairy rolled her eyes at Lin Feng and said, "The lowest level Neji is worth 70,000 gold coins. Open the last stone box and there is a blue scroll inside." Caught by Lin Feng, the little medical fairy blushed slightly and was speechless. Holding the black scroll in his hand, Lin Feng slowly exhaled, forced down the joy in his heart, and raised his hand to the little medical fairy. "Wrong again." The little medical fairy looked at the colorful scroll in his hand and said in surprise, it's really the Poison Sutra. Could it be that the person who left these things is also a doctor? Then he hesitated for a moment and threw it to the little medical fairy, then he took out a low-level Nai ring from his arms, handed it to the little medical fairy, and said, "I'll give this to you." The little medical fairy snorted, wrinkled her pretty nose, and supported Lu's waist, which was sore from bending over to dig, which immediately made Lin Feng's eyes heat up. In Dou Qi Continent, if you want to fly off the ground, only those with Dou Ling or above can fly short distances. The pretty face was stunned for a moment, and then a hint of embarrassment appeared. The little Dr. Xianyu spread his hands, and a small bag of green powder was held in it. "If you want to steal it, I won't give it to you." "That's right, but as long as you practice this flying fighting skill, even if your own strength does not reach the fighting king level, you can still condense your wings and fly through the air." "Thank you." That's not it. This was the first time in her life that she saw Neji, and she couldn't help but murmured, "Is this Neji?" Hearing this, Lin Feng withdrew his gaze, glanced at the jade bottles on the stone table, and finally picked out 10 jade bottles under the reluctant eyes of the little fairy doctor and put them into the ring. Lin Feng shrugged and smiled indifferently. "Flying? Isn't that a talent that at least requires a strong spirit fighter to possess? You still have some conscience and know how to call me." The key only probed half a distance before being blocked. After their strength reaches the level of Dou Wang or Dou Emperor, they can use the outward Dou Qi to condense energy wings behind their backs, allowing them to leave the shackles of the earth and soar into the sky. Lin Feng grinned and quickly put the scroll in his hand into the ring. "Xian-level fighting skills, do you want it?" After looking at the scroll, Lin Feng turned to the little medical fairy and asked. Hearing this, the little medical fairy wrinkled her lovely eyebrows and replied, "Forget it, I have no interest in these things." "Then I'll accept it. You can take more of the gold coins in this cave." With that said, Lin Feng accepted the scroll. Chapter 16 Distress. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After putting away the scroll, Lin Feng looked at the piles of gold coins in front of him, then he said to the little medical fairy, "We have seen almost everything. The remaining gold coins are divided between you and me. After collecting them, let this senior be laid to rest." "Okay." The little medical fairy nodded and had no objection to this. Afterwards, the two of them put the gold coins in the 3 corners into the ring, then a pit was dug in a corner of the stone chamber and the bones and the broken bone were buried. After doing this, Lin Feng looked at the cave and saw that there was nothing left. Then he said to the little medical fairy, "Okay, let's go back now." "Wait, someone is coming." "What?" Hearing this, the little medical fairy was also shocked, and immediately shook his head and said, "Impossible, we are the only two who know it." "I heard you right, there are quite a lot of people coming." Lin Feng's face looked a little ugly, and he subconsciously glanced at the little medical fairy. "Do you suspect that I called you?" Seeing Lin Feng's expression, the little fairy doctor's pretty face suddenly became angry. "If I wanted to harm you, I could have just asked the mercenaries in the camp to do it before. There is no need to wait here." Hearing this, Lin Feng also felt that it made sense, but when he heard the footsteps getting closer and closer, he hurriedly said to the little medical fairy, "Now take out the medicine powder from before and prepare it. Look at my eyes and act later." "Okay." The little medical fairy gritted her teeth, grabbed all the powder in her 2 little hands, and then hid her hands in her sleeves. I didn't expect that I would have such an adventure." Sure enough, God bless me, as soon as the little medical fairy finished her action, a familiar faint laughter rang out proudly in the stone room, then a dozen figures slowly walked in from the dark passage outside the door. "Muli." Listening to this voice, the little medical fairy immediately gritted her teeth. At the dark stone gate, a dozen mercenaries were divided into 3 rows and blocked the stone gate tightly. A figure walked out from behind, and finally revealed his face under the light of the moonstone. It was Muli, the young leader of the wolf-head mercenary group. His eyes first glanced at the stone box that had been opened by Lin Feng and the two of them, and a touch of greed flashed in Muli's eyes. During the day, he saw the little medical fairy and Lin Feng leaving for such a long time and coming out of the woods with somewhat disheveled clothes. He suspected that the two of them had done something evil in the woods. Lying in bed at night, he became more and more angry as he thought about it, so he got up and wanted to deal with the little medical fairy directly in the dark, so that he could make a meal out of raw rice. Who would have thought that after going to the little medical fairy's tent, I found that there wasn't even a ghost inside. At this time, Ma Si, the mercenary he sent to kill Lin Feng, also ran over and reported that he took people to Lin Feng's tent and found that there was no one inside. Mu Li thought that Lin Feng and the little medical fairy went to the woods again at night, with the mentality that since I can't get it, I must destroy it. I led people to prepare to catch him in the woods. Who would have thought that the rapist was not caught in the woods, but the rope was found on the edge of the cliff, and the cave was discovered along the rope. Seeing this situation, Mu Li didn't know what was going on. So he immediately asked his men to seal off the area, and then hurriedly brought the mercenaries beside him down to block the door. Licking his lips and scanning the stone chamber, Mu Li couldn't help but smile and said, "Sorry to disturb you too. Are you following us?" Lin Feng felt relieved when he saw Mu Li and the mercenaries behind him. Except for Mu Li, a 6-star fighter, the other mercenaries are all 4 and 5-star fighters. Although he couldn't kill all of them, he should have no problem running out with the little medical fairy. Mu Li shrugged and said with a smile, "Not really, these things are too important to our wolf-head mercenary group. As long as we have them, we can easily annex all the forces in Qingshan town. Only then will we be qualified to compete with as my strength develops outwards. I don't want to limit my sights to just this small town. Leave the things to me, little medical fairy. You should be very clear about my feelings for you. As long as you follow me, I will never treat you badly when I take charge of the wolf-head mercenary group in the future." Staring at the little medical fairy with affectionate eyes, Mu Li's voice slowly softened. "Disgusting, get out." The little medical fairy expressed her meaning directly without any nonsense. Seeing that Mu Li wanted to say something else, Lin Feng glanced at the little medical fairy, who understood instantly. Raising his hands, all the medicinal powder in his hands was immediately sent up into the air, and then scattered. The medicinal powder scattered everywhere immediately filled the entire stone room. "Follow me." After saying something to the little medical fairy, Lin Feng quickly ran towards the entrance of the cave. "Hold your breath. People by the door are not allowed to move. Block the door, Ma Si. Attack them." Looking at the medicinal powder filling the stone room, it was even more difficult to see clearly in the cave, which was not very bright. Mu Li couldn't find any trace of Lin Feng and the two of them for a moment. His face changed slightly and he shouted urgently. "Yellow level intermediate fighting skill, gravel fist." Yellow level intermediate fighting skill, gravel fist. Before the few mercenaries at the front could reply, they felt a strong wind blowing past them, and palms containing ferocious energy hit their chests heavily. Suddenly, several unprepared mercenaries screamed, and then fell heavily on the stone wall of the cave. After that, they slowly slid down again, not knowing whether they were alive or dead. Hearing the screams of his men, Mu Li's face darkened, and he hurriedly took a few steps back, landing just outside the stone gate. At the same time, it also completely blocked the space of Shimen. "Oh!" Strong energy suddenly shot out from the front. At the stone gate, several mercenaries in the second row who were at the 5-star fighter level could not withstand the attack of Lin Feng, an 8-star fighter. With a muffled groan, they were directly hit by this. A strong burst of energy caused him to move a few steps. Before the people nearby could close the gap, 2 gusts of wind, like loaches, slipped out. When they came to their senses, it was too late to stop them. They had to shout at Mu Li in the last row, "Young captain, they are coming for you." Mu Li's eyes narrowed, and he slowly spread his legs to block the narrow passage. He clenched his palms tightly, and the light green fighting energy gradually surged on them. Under the exaggeration of green fighting spirit, those flesh fists began to gradually turn into a wood-like color. "I want to see how you, a 2-star fighter, can repel me in a head-on collision." Looking at the 2 figures approaching quickly, Mu Li sneered, "Get back here." Following Mu Li's loud shout, the fists, which were like a pair of wooden fists, glowed with green light, and with a ferocious energy, they smashed towards Lin Feng angrily. Xian-level low-level fighting skill, hardening of wood. Lin Feng's speed did not slow down at all, and there was no trace of fear on his calm face. The flowing fighting spirit in his body, guided by the Xuanjie technique, began to circulate violently along the veins of fighting skills. Xian level low-level fighting skill, red fire palm. I wrote it wrong in chapter 3. What I got from Lu Qi was the red fire palm, not the fire element palm. The fire element palm is something that will only appear in later chapters, after the fighting energy passed through the specific meridians carved by the red fire palm on the hand. The raging fighting energy instantly turned Lin Feng's right palm red. Boom, that with one palm and one punch, they suddenly met in the narrow cave. Thanks to Sia 81645102. If we only meet for the first time in life. 4631811206 for the recommendation vote. Thank you Lu Yifan for the recommendation ticket. Thanks to book friend 2021030110414835747 for the recommendation vote. Adorable new author asking for recommendations. Chapter 17 Escape. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lin Feng's fighting skills and techniques are the same set. When the two work together, the power they exert is naturally much stronger than the ordinary low-level fighting skills of the Xian level. In addition, Mu Li was already 2 stars lower than Lin Feng. Less than a second after the two faced each other, there was a click from Mu Li's fists. Pfft. Immediately, a mouthful of blood spurted out, and was finally ejected with great force. Ah! My hand. After falling to the ground, Mu Li raised his severely deformed fists, and the screams from his mouth continued for a long time in the passage. Young captain, but when the few mercenaries behind heard the scream, they panicked and hurriedly shouted in the direction of Mu Li. If something happens to Mu Li here, his father Mu Shi will not let them go easily. Go. Hearing this, Lin Feng thought that the little medical fairy seemed to have a first-order magical beast as a partner. Seeing Lan Ying's arrival, the little medical fairy immediately breathed a sigh of relief and waved to Lin Feng, raising the bamboo flute in his hand. The little medical fairy said with a playful smile, a first-order blue eagle. With her reputation in Qingshan town, Mu Li would never dare to attack her again if he didn't want to arouse public anger. With her slender fingers, she opened the black hair on her forehead, and the oncoming strong wind blew her clothes tightly against the little medical fairy's body, faintly revealing her beautiful curves. However, he couldn't take the initiative to say it, so he asked, "Then what can you do?" The cruel reality before them made everyone stunned for a moment. "Let's go." With the help of the moonlight, Lin Feng could vaguely see a huge blue eagle flying rapidly deep in the mountains. How could the young leader of the 6-star fighters be beaten like this by that young man? Hearing the shouts below, there was a slight commotion on the cliff, and then a hail of arrows suddenly shot out of the sky, shooting towards the blue eagle in the sky. After knocking down Mu Li, Lin Feng resisted the temptation to kill him on the spot, grabbed the arm of the little medical fairy behind him, and then hurriedly rushed out of the cave. Flying monster. It seems we are saved. Lin Feng smiled. In just a moment, he flew under the cliff and hovered. An instant later, their eyes suddenly lit up, and the stars in the sky and the huge silver moon appeared in their sight. Xiao Lan, go quickly. The little medical fairy hurriedly urged as he jumped onto the eagle's body. Lin Feng wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and sat on the blue eagle, looking down at the cave. With Mu Li's scheming, there must be mercenaries from the Langtu mercenary group on the cliff. Appearing at the entrance of the cave, Lin Feng pulled the little medical fairy against the stone wall with quick eyes and hands, and quietly glanced at the cliff. After returning to the herb collection team, Mu Li no longer dares to do anything to me. The little medical fairy said with a smile. Violent. Lin Feng nodded and said, then use it quickly, otherwise, if those people catch up, it will be inconvenient for me to run away with you. Seeing the two people actually boarding the Blue Eagle, the dozen mercenaries who appeared at the entrance of the cave hurriedly shouted to the cliff. After struggling to hold himself up, Mu Li leaned against the stone wall and let out a heavy breath. Not long after the sound waves were transmitted, a sharp cry resounded in the night sky. Thank you Lu Yifan for the recommendation ticket. Crouching down, the strong wind blew the little medical fairy's long hair a little messy. He gently touched Lan Ying's body with his jade hands, turned around, smiled at Lin Feng and said, it's safe now. Shoot it. Since time traveling, he has only fought against Warcraft, and this is the first time he has fought against others. biting her red lip. The little fairy doctor seemed to have decided on something, bit her pink lip, and said, "I can take you away." Lin Feng pulled the little medical fairy with an expressionless face and kept rushing towards the outside world. His right hand, which was shrunk in the cuff of his sleeve, was slightly aching, and his adrenaline was soaring like crazy. Sure enough, we found many figures on the cliff, patrolling around with torches. "No, I want to go back to the herb collection team." The little medical fairy shook her head and said with a faint smile. Not long after Lin Feng took off, 7 or 8 mercenaries who could still walk rushed out of the stone room. After saying that, Lin Feng put his ear to the ground. After a while, he said in a deep voice, "The pursuers are coming soon." "How long will it take for your partner to arrive?" Lanning gradually moved away, and Lin Feng also withdrew his gaze, turned his head, looked at the little medical fairy, and asked, "Leave with me?" Looking at the rain of arrows, Lin Feng was slightly startled. In the fighter stage, Sha Yi was still unable to gather his fighting spirit, so ordinary crossbows were still a threat to him. "Yes. Call." He put his arm around the little medical fairy's slender waist, jumped straight up onto the huge blue eagle. Hearing the voice of the little medical fairy, Blue Eagle immediately flapped its wings, and a huge strong wind blew past it. Then it lifted into the sky with the 2 people on its back. "You're going back. You're really not afraid of death." Seeing her look like this, Lin Feng didn't know what to say. Looking at these stupid men, Muli spurted out a mouthful of blood again, endured the pain from his palms, and roared angrily. Seeing Lin Feng nod, the little medical fairy took out a short bamboo flute from his arms, put it in his small mouth, and blew gently. 2 pairs of eyes met each other in the night sky. Lin Feng unrestrainedly released his murderous intention towards Muli, who wanted to kill him. Senran's eyes were fixed on Muli, who was being supported by several mercenaries at the entrance of the cave. A somewhat strange sound wave quickly spread from the flute, then passed through the passage, and finally hovered in the night sky beyond the cliff. "What are you doing?" A flash of ferocity flashed in his eyes, and he said solemnly, "Little bastard, don't let me catch you, or you will be unable to survive or die." "Idiot, what are you still doing? Go after him. You must kill that kid. Also, when you get out, send a signal as soon as possible to let the people ambush above intercept and kill them." Muli's roar brought the mercenaries back to their senses. They responded hurriedly, then passed by and quickly pursued Lin Feng and the 2. Heaving a sigh of relief, Lin Feng sat softly on top of Lan Ying's body, lowering his head and looking at the rapidly retreating woods, breathing rapidly. The little medical fairy reminded, he felt a little nervous. This was the first time he had flown so high without protection. Thanks to Ming Xiao for the recommendation vote. After running along the dark passage again for a while, the moonlight at the entrance of the cave became brighter and brighter. Whoosh, 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 the little medical fairy's beautiful eyes scanned the night sky, and she put the bamboo flute into her mouth again. The strange sound waves echoed silently in the night sky. "Sure enough, I still have some tricks up my sleeve." Nodding slightly, Lin Feng turned around, looked at the cave where some figures could already be seen, and smiled coldly. Lin Feng asked, pretending not to know while looking at the small hole that was faintly glowing with moonlight. Looking at Muli, whose face was pale and his hands were deformed on the ground, he couldn't help but feel horrified. "Summoning my companions." Just as he was about to take action to repel it, the blue eagle under his feet suddenly shook its wings, and a light blue wind blew out, immediately sending a wave of arrows down the cliff. Thanks to the writer 7-star Dragon King 3MO Angry Brother for the recommendation ticket. Thanks to for the recommendation vote. The symbols cannot be typed. If possible, please give the author a recommendation vote. Greater than over equal to less than over equal to. Chapter 19 Crazy Lion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hee. Lin Feng smiled softly and said immediately, "How naive. If the Wolf-Head mercenary group hypes up in Qingshan town and says that you have obtained Xian-level martial arts fighting skills in the Warcraft mountains, will your so-called favor still be useful? Muli and the others shouldn't dare to do this. If it is publicized and attracts everyone's attention, even if the Wolf-Head mercenary group is the most powerful force in Qingshan town, they may not necessarily be able to get the items in my hand. Hearing Lin Feng's words, the little medical fairy felt a little guilty. Although she was not very interested in fighting spirit training, she also knew how attractive high-level fighting skills were to the mercenaries in Qingshan town. However, in her heart, still a little reluctant to leave Qingshan town where he grew up, he insisted. In that case, it's up to you. Seeing this, Lin Feng could only nod slightly and stop talking about the matter. After all, he was not very familiar with the little medical fairy now. Seeing her insisting like this, it was hard to say anything else. Where are you? Turning his head, the little medical fairy asked with a smile. Lin Feng clutched Blue Eagle's feathers tightly with his palms, his voice sank, and he said immediately, I won't go back. With the strength I just showed, that guy Muli will definitely try his best to kill me. So, with my strength I will not return to Qingshan town until it is enough to destroy the wolf-head mercenary group. Leave. To be honest, facing a beauty like the little medical fairy, it was impossible for him not to have any thoughts in his mind. However, there were more important things before him, so he could suppress his thoughts. Lin Feng sneered and said cruelly, although I can't destroy the wolf-head mercenary group by myself now, I believe that I can destroy them by myself in half a year at most. I will practice in the Warcraft mountains for a period of time, and then, look for me again. The wolf-head mercenary group is slowly settling the score. Taking a deep breath of the fresh morning air, Lin Feng suddenly turned around and walked into the dense forest without looking back. The leader of the wolf-head mercenary group is a 2-star fighting master. If you want to take revenge, you have to be careful. Yes. Snow White's chin tapped lightly, and the little medical fairy hesitated slightly. Finally, he took out a small bag of medicinal powder from his arms and handed it to Lin Feng. Although these medicinal powders are not very powerful, they can barely defend themselves. After taking the medicinal powder that the little medical fairy took out from his chest, Lin Feng couldn't help but feel excited. The 2 sharp long teeth penetrated deeply into the body of the greenwood rat. While the black shadow injected poison, it tightly entangled the greenwood rat with its body. Lin Feng took a closer look at a bush dozens of meters away from the 2 monsters. It turned out that what was previously hidden in the bushes was a black iron mango. The body quickly approached Wu Qimang, and the fine iron spear in his hand was quickly wrapped in the violent crimson fighting spirit. Looking at the 2 entangled monsters, Lin Feng's figure hidden behind the bushes slowly approached Wu Qimang, who was concentrating on eating. When the moon set and the sun rose, the huge blue eagle slowly circled down, and finally folded its wings and landed on the top of a mountain. With a sneer, the little medical fairy jumped onto the blue eagle again, then slowly circled down, and finally disappeared into the dark night sky. You want to leave here and go to other cities? Hearing this, the little medical fairy asked hesitantly, then he raised his hand to the little medical fairy and said seriously, Goodbye, next time we meet, I will go and take down that shabby mercenary group, so as to give us 2 vents. Under the morning light, on the top of the mountain, looking at the mercenary team leaving, Lin Feng twisted his head, slowly clenched his palms, and sneered, Muli, wait for me, you want to kill me? This Mr. Chiu will keep it in mind, and next time we meet, I want you to repay me twice as much. After saying that, he turned around and walked into the dark forest. Soon, when the greenwood rat was eating happily, a black shadow suddenly appeared from the withered grass next to it, and a big mouth bit the head of the greenwood rat that was about to escape. The 2 huge front teeth occasionally bite open some nuts that fall on the ground and eat the tender pulp inside. As the fighting spirit on the spear became more and more intense. Soon after, as the fighting spirit surged, it faintly formed into the shape of an energetic lion's head looking up to the sky and roaring wildly. After coming back to his senses, Lin Feng touched his nose, smiled, and nodded slightly. Thinking of Muli, Lin Feng's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He had no good qualities except that he held grudges and would retaliate. Turning his head, he commanded the blue eagle to fly towards the mountains. The herb collection team is down below. Since you won't go back, I'll leave you here. You can leave on your own after dawn, okay? After a moment of silence, the little medical fairy solemnly reminded him. Watching the young man's back slowly disappear into the darkness, the little medical fairy finally looked back. Wu Qimang, a first-level monster, is covered with dark brown diamond-shaped scales and is extremely poisonous. It usually feeds on small monsters such as the green wood rat and the wood-swallowing fox. Its attack power is extremely powerful, equivalent to that of a human 9-star fighter. Turning his head to the camp below, he whispered lightly, "Mu Li, just wait for me. Women can hold grudges far more than you think." Seeing Lin Feng's appearance, and thinking of the miserable look he had made Mu Li, a 6-star fighter, with one move, the little medical fairy nodded and stopped talking. Looking at the bonfire below, the little medical fairy turned to Lin Feng and smiled. Xian level advanced fighting skill, mad lion fighting, that he has traveled so long and has not experienced life and death. He is extremely lacking in actual combat experience. If he fights against someone of the same level or higher than himself, he will suffer a big loss. In the forest outside the Warcraft mountains, a first-level green wood rat was crawling carefully, its small brown eyes constantly scanning the forest vigilantly. Yes. He smiled and nodded. Lin Feng hugged the little medical fairy and said with a smile, "Then let's say goodbye here. Maybe we will have to wait a long time before we meet again." When he reached about 10 meters away from Wu Qimang, the fighting energy in his body began to circulate rapidly, and his legs suddenly stepped onto the ground. I'll wait." The little fairy doctor winked playfully and said with a smile. Lin Feng waved his hand casually and smiled indifferently. "It's okay, I'm just a little fighting master. Give me some time and I'll reach that level soon." As the roar rang out, a huge energy lion instantly emerged from the tip of the spear in Lin Feng's hand, and the violent roar of the lion resounded throughout the small world. Accompanied by the roaring sound, in the blink of an eye, the energy lion had appeared next to the back of Wu Qimang's head. Out of the survival instinct of Warcraft, the black iron python subconsciously dodged to the side. It's a pity that he couldn't escape the attack range of the energy lion head at the moment when he came into contact with Lin Feng's fighting skills. The snake's head was torn into pieces by the violent fighting spirit, and then the body without the head twitched several times, and finally fell down weakly. Thank you all for your support. I will add an update today. I will continue to work hard on coding. In addition, the new author asks for support, _ Chapter 20 Practicing Ziyun Wing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 20 Cultivation of Ziyun Wing. After a successful blow, Lin Feng did not relax his vigilance. He quickly retracted his spear, stepped aside, and looked around carefully. His experiences in the past few days let him know that in this Warcraft mountain range, you may be attacked by some kind of Warcraft at any time. If you are not vigilant enough, you may become a delicacy in the mouth of a monster in the next second. After confirming that there was no monster ambushing him, Lin Feng took back his spear with a happy face. After he and the little fairy doctor left, they had been improving their actual combat experience in the Warcraft mountains for the past few days. During this period, I also took the opportunity to learn the advanced Xian level fighting skills, crazy lion fighting. Today was the first time he used it. He didn't expect it to be so powerful. With just one blow, he killed the 9-star fighter-level black iron python. After having fun, Lin Feng picked up the dagger and messed with Wu Qimang's flesh and blood. Finally, he reached in and took out a magic core. The magic core, on the Dou Qi Continent, is also called the magic crystal. As the name suggests, it is an energy crystal core in the body of Warcraft. It is filled with extremely violent energy of heaven and earth. For this kind of violent energy, even a fighter Wang didn't dare to take the risk of exploding his body and forcefully inhale it. However, magic core can also be added to weapons. Weapons with magic core will not only be more destructive, but also have the alluring special effect of increasing fighting spirit, which is highly sought after by the fighting class in the fighting spirit continent. Of course, in addition to weapons, magic cores can also be added to armor and other items, bringing powerful defense to the owner, giving people a little more life protection when facing danger. Furthermore, although the magic core cannot be directly absorbed by humans, it is one of the indispensable main materials for alchemists like Lin Feng when refining medicine. After refining, the magic core will be neutralized by some magical herbs to neutralize the violent attributes, and transform into various strength-enhancing elixirs coveted by countless people, and its value will suddenly skyrocket. He put Wu Qiumeng's magic core into Neji and fiddled with it in the head of Qing Mushu's corpse for a while. However, Lin Feng did not find the magic core this time. He had encountered this situation too many times in the past few days, and he was not too disappointed. He casually threw the body aside, raised his head to determine the direction, and then ran towards a place where the faint sound of water could be heard. Lin Feng nimbly passed through the thorns in the woods. After walking hurriedly for a moment, the sight in front of him suddenly widened. The sound of the rumbling waterfall made his face full of ecstasy. After getting out of the last giant tree, looking at the scene in front of him, he couldn't help but take a deep breath. Within Lin Feng's line of sight, a huge waterfall, like a silver bolt, lashed down from a high mountain. The water hit the boulders and filled the sky with mist. On both sides of the waterfall, there are some steep mountain walls. On the mountain walls, there are naturally formed caves, which makes Lin Feng a little happy. As long as some stones are piled at the entrance of these caves, the monsters can be kept out. You no longer have to worry about finding a ferocious poisonous snake coiled next to you after you wake up from practice. Moreover, there are abundant water sources and food here, so there is no need to spend a lot of time hunting monsters to obtain food. Finally found the best place to practice. Opening his arms, Lin Feng sniffed the air filled with moisture and murmured with a smile. He jumped over a ravine and slowly walked towards the waterfall, scanning the surroundings cautiously. Lin Feng breathed a sigh of relief after not seeing any magical beasts. When we came to the steep mountain wall, we chose a cave that felt pretty good and quickly got into it. The inside of the cave is a little cool, but the area inside is not small. It is more than enough for Lin Feng to live alone. He carefully scanned the ground inside the cave for a few times and found nothing left by the monsters, so he felt relieved. After roughly cleaning the cave entrance was blocked with huge rocks so that only one person could pass through. He will spend a lot of time here, and safety is the most important issue. After doing all this, Lin Feng turned his hand, and dark scrolls appeared in his palm. It was the volume of Xian level. Advanced flying fighting skills obtained in the cave before. In the past few days, Lin Feng had been practicing the crazy lion skill and did not have time or a safe place to watch the flying fighting skills, but now that I have a place to live, I can finally study with peace of mind. Untying the string that was carefully tied on the scroll, and then slowly unfolding the scroll, two dark and chilling eagle wings appeared in Lin Feng's eyes. This pair of eagle wings is not large in shape because it is painted on the scroll. However, there is a faint heat emanating from it. Looking at this strange appearance, it is obviously not a simple picture. The eagle wings are dark in color, with some faint purple cloud patterns. Looking closely, the wings are like black steel, with a special metallic texture. The feathers on the eagle's wings exuded a faint heat, and Lin Feng curiously blew a breath on them. I saw that under the breeze, the feathers on the eagle's wings were fluttering like real wings, which was extremely magical. His eyes swept over the eagle wings, and Lin Feng's eyes suddenly stopped at a line of small words on the side. The black flame purple cloud eagle is a 5th level flying monster. It is said to have the sparse bloodline of the ancient phoenix. Its flying speed ranks among the best among all flying monsters. It is cunning and cruel in nature and is extremely difficult to capture. It only lives in Yunzilin in the south of the mainland zone. This volume of fighting skills is called Eagle Wings, also known as Purple Cloud Wings. It took me and several friends 3 years to successfully capture a flame purple cloud eagle and use a secret method to take its wings. Finally, this volume was formed. A flying fighting skill that can be practiced by others. This fighting skill was painted with fighting energy before I died. It can only be practiced by one person. Remember, that after reading the above text, Lin Feng secretly thought to himself that this senior needed the help of several friends to kill the 5th level monster. It seemed that he should have been a fighting king level figure during his lifetime. Feeling the soul inside, Lin Feng was not surprised. Knowing that it was the remnant soul of the black flame purple cloud eagle, he murmured, with the strength of my soul, I don't need to worry too much about the purple cloud eagle's soul attack. Although it is 5 level, but now, it is just a remnant soul and cannot become a phenomenon. Then he moved his palms to the scroll, pressed the soft wings lightly, took a deep breath, and slowly closed his eyes. not long after placing his palms against the wings, the violent eagle's soul in the eagle wings suddenly let out a sharp cry that made his soul tremble. The chirping sound quickly passed through the scroll, and finally followed Lin Feng's arm, like a drill, hammering into his brain, thanks to Dark Candle for the recommendation vote. Chapter 21 Strange Fire. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The first time he suffered an attack from the soul, Lin Feng shuddered all over, but quickly recovered with the help of his powerful soul power. He hurriedly used his soul perception to quickly build up several layers of defense. After a struggle, he successfully withstood the attack of the remnant soul. It seemed that the scream of the soul had no effect, and the soul of the purple cloud eagle was silent for a moment. A violent emotion suddenly came from the scroll, and then rushed towards the depths of Lin Feng's heart. Taking a deep breath again, Lin Feng guarded his mind tightly, not daring to let the violent emotions invade at all. After this soul battle continued for several minutes, the remaining soul of the purple cloud eagle began to slowly dissipate. When the violent emotions like wild animals withdrew from his heart like a tide, Lin Feng's whole body suddenly became numb, his face was pale and he looked extremely tired. This kind of spiritual confrontation was far more energy-consuming than the physical confrontation. After resting for a while, Lin Feng touched the eagle wings with his palms again, and the fighting spirit in his body began to slowly circulate in his body along the track described on the scroll. After a while, the fighting energy flow moved to the arm, gradually flowing into the palm. This lotus-shaped thing looks faintly yellowed and a little blurry, perhaps due to the passage of time, but its general outline can still be seen clearly. After scanning it carefully for a while, he landed on the corner of the paper and found something vague like a lotus. Flying is a temptation that is enough to make most people's hearts flutter. In order to pursue this temptation, many strong people are working hard to cultivate towards the realm of fighting kings. 10 minutes later, the pale Lin Feng landed next to the waterfall. Through the water, he saw the purple cloud wings once again attached to his back, turning into a black eagle wing tattoo. He untied the scroll with his palm and slowly unfolded it. What appeared in his eyes was a piece of leather paper made of an unknown material. Speaking of which, this was the first time that Lin Feng soared in the sky so freely. His mood at this moment was hard to describe. When Dou Qi appeared in the palm of his hand, the eagle wings on the black scroll suddenly glowed brightly, and the purple and black colors became thicker and thicker. Some can control volcanic eruptions, while others can increase the speed of their master's cultivation. Therefore, the strength of these strange fires are all extremely strong. Even the 23rd weakest, when they first mature, have fighting power at the level of a fighting king. After two tiny rays of purple-black light entered Lin Feng's body, they quickly circulated along his meridians. There was a trace of fire in his eyes, but when he thought that he was just a little fighter now, he sighed softly, and then put the broken picture back into the storage ring. These two branches extend from the main trunk and slowly stop when they reach the backbone. Then he turned his head and found that the meridians were forcefully pulled out into two extremely small branches. Suddenly, a sharp pain came from Lin Feng's back. The sweat on his forehead suddenly rolled down, and his fists were clenched tightly. Lin Feng felt very novel about this scene, as well as the rapid and roaring wind blowing by his ears, and the rapidly retreating earth below. Fuck. However, when I touched the damaged clothes on the back, my mouth suddenly felt bitter. I would need to prepare a few more sets of clothes in Neji in the future. After an unknown amount of time, the severe pain slowly dissipated, and a pair of palm-sized black eagle wing tattoos appeared on Lin Feng's back. After doing all this, Lin Feng immediately took out the remaining picture from the ring. Strange fires are usually strange flames that are nurtured by heaven and earth in a special environment between heaven and earth. Looking at the scenery on the ground that was getting smaller and smaller, but also getting wider and wider, Lin Feng flapped his wings and flew away in a random direction. Finally, it turned into two small purple-black lights and rushed into Lin Feng's palm like lightning. After that, all the medicinal materials were taken out and placed on the ground. After counting them, they were sorted into categories and carefully preserved in jade boxes. With a somewhat bitter look on his face, he said, "This thing is good, but it takes too much energy. It seems that it can only be used in key places. I'd better use my legs honestly when I'm on the road." He immediately took off his obstructive top, stood up, and familiarized himself with the control of Ziyun in the cave. A moment later, when he came to the entrance of the cave, his wings spread out again, and in an instant, they soared into the sky. After recovering from the pain, Lin Feng couldn't wait to pour the fighting energy in his body into the pair of small tattoos on his back along the two small branch veins that separated, as a sound of tearing cloth came from behind, the area of the black eagle wings also expanded from the size of a palm to about a foot. Moreover, for some unknown reason, each of them possesses some special abilities, he said with some disappointment. Well, the strange fire thing is not something I can get now. I'd better collect as many residual pictures as possible. After that, even if I can't conquer the pure lotus demon fire, I can still get a lot of them. Nice one. As for the upper limit of its growth, it is unknown. Seeing this, Lin Feng was overjoyed. After cultivating this Ziyun wing, his success rate in escaping will be greatly increased when he encounters danger in the future. On the slightly yellowed leather paper, there are some seemingly irregular lines painted on it, and a finger points to one line. Maybe it was condensed in the lava deep in the earth, or maybe it was born in the mysterious depths of the void, but without exception, they all experienced an extremely long time and absorbed countless years of energy before they grew. Is this the pure lotus demon fire? Lin Feng murmured as he slowly stroked the lotus pattern with his palm. After receiving the transmission of fighting spirit, the tattoo on his back instantly released a faint purple brilliance, and finally turned into a physical wing. When they flowed to the meridians on Lin Feng's back, they suddenly stopped. The lotus flower is black, and there seems to be a thin layer of black inflammation attached to the surface of the lotus flower. If you look seriously, the whole lotus flower actually gives people a vague feeling of monster. Immediately he sat cross-legged, started to perform his exercises, and began to restore his fighting spirit. After a while, Lin Feng felt the fighting spirit filling his body again, opened his eyes and stretched his body. However, following its slow movement, the paper was finally removed and nothing else was found. The pure lotus demon fire is the third strange fire on the list of strange fires, and its strength is that of fighting saint. Standing up and looking in the direction of the depths of the Warcraft mountains, Lin Feng narrowed his eyes slightly, clenched his fists tightly, and murmured, after you have become proficient in Quang Shiling and Ziyun, with these two whole cards, you can walk a little into the Warcraft mountains. I believe that as long as you don't go to the core area in the middle, in case of an emergency, escaping should not be a problem. Thinking of this, Lin Feng took out his spear and began to master the Mad Lion weapon. Ask for a recommendation. Chapter 22 Killing the Level 2 Warcraft. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 22 Killing the second level monster, Warcraft Mountains, a forest composed of tall trees. At this time, Lin Feng was running forward like crazy, looking behind him from time to time. There was full of helplessness in his eyes. Today, he was unlucky. He didn't expect that after getting the things, he would encounter the magical beast guarding the medicinal materials. Behind him, a 3-meter-tall white ape-like monster was chasing after him. One person and one ape kept running wildly in the woods. Why am I so unlucky today that I will meet you like this? That with a strange cry and looking at the blizzard demon ape getting closer and closer behind him, Lin Feng hurriedly increased his speed again. Not long ago, Lin Feng discovered a wheeling red fruit tree in a jungle. As it happened, the guardian monster of that tree happened to be absent as well. Wheeling Qigua is the main ingredient of the second-grade Qi reviving pill, and he had previously obtained 2 volumes of second-grade prescriptions from Lu Xina's ring. One of the rolls happened to be the Qi returning pill. Looking at the wheeling red fruit in front of him, how could Lin Feng resist this temptation? Like the wind, I went up and picked everything. Unexpectedly, after picking it, the second-level blizzard demon ape guarding the wheeling Qi fruit happened to come back injured and bumped into the tree. Everyone was stunned, but when Lin Feng saw it was a second-level monster, he turned around and ran away without hesitation. And when Warcraft saw that the treasure he used to upgrade was cleaned by someone, he would not let Lin Feng go so easily. Thus, the current scene was created. After running for more than 10 minutes, Lin Feng glanced at the blizzard demon ape's abdomen. There was a huge wound there caused by the bite of an unknown monster. Thinking of him now, the gaseous fighting energy in his body has begun to liquefy, and he is only one step away from the realm of fighting master. Furthermore, he has been practicing in the Warcraft mountains for 2 months, and his actual combat experience has improved much compared to before. After some calculation in his mind, he should be able to fight this seriously injured second-level blizzard demon ape. He gritted his teeth and immediately gave up his plan to escape using flying. Fighting skills, he raised his palm to the level of his chest, and it was quickly covered with a layer of red fighting energy, and he suddenly stopped running. He suddenly made a 180-degree turn and rushed towards the monster behind him at extremely high speed. Red fire palm. With a loud shout, Lin Feng accurately struck the wound on the abdomen of the blizzard demon ape, and his palm immediately sank into it. Ow! The wound was hit by the hot fighting spirit, causing the latter to let out bursts of pain. Then he swung his fists very fast and punched Lin Feng suddenly. Suddenly, Lin Feng felt a strong wave of air coming, and then a pain in his abdomen. Immediately, without enough time to react, he fell into the grass 5 or 6 meters away. A mouthful of blood spat out uncontrollably. Looking at the blizzard demon ape who only took a step back, Lin Feng couldn't help but have a flash of disappointment in his eyes. Sure enough, this monster, which is comparable to a 5-star fighting master, is not so easy to deal with even if it is seriously injured. However, Lin Feng glanced at his blood-stained palm and saw that the attack just now was not without effect. At least, the blizzard demon ape's internal organs must have suffered a lot of damage from the fighting skills just now. Although the monster's physique is strong, it will not be too uncomfortable. Moreover, the wound on its abdomen has begun to bleed profusely. Looking at the latter's bleeding wound, Lin Feng immediately thought of something, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He took out a healing medicine and drank it. Then, enduring the pain, he turned around and ran away again. Moreover, he also took out a Huiling Chi fruit and threw it away, luring the blizzard demon ape to pursue him. When the blizzard demon ape saw Lin Feng in front of him, showing off what he had snatched from him, he howled angrily. He hit his chest with both fists, making a bang sound, and then quickly chased after him. Seeing the blizzard demon ape chasing after him, Lin Feng raised the corner of his mouth slightly. While running away, he used fighting skills to attack the former from time to time. This will continue to irritate it, causing it to ignore the wounds on its body and continue to chase you. This pursuit lasted for about 10 minutes. Lin Feng noticed that the speed of the blizzard demon ape behind him was getting slower and slower, and his movements became weaker and weaker. Seeing its weak appearance, I am afraid that even a 1-star fighting master using low-level Xian-level fighting skills can kill it with one blow. Lin Feng knew that the time had come, so he touched Neji with his palm and took out a spear. Afterwards, the fighting energy throughout the body quickly circulated along certain meridians. Soon, his body suddenly turned around, and a huge energy lion condensed into form. The spear in his hand also stabbed the exhausted blizzard demon ape. Crazy lion. Following Lin Feng's movements, the giant energy lion slammed into the blizzard demon ape's abdominal wound. The vegetation along the way was also destroyed by the fighting skills. Boom. Due to a large amount of blood loss, the weak blizzard demon ape could not dodge at all, and could only see himself colliding with the fighting skills. The ferocious fighting spirit immediately surged into its body along the wound, and then exploded. As Lin Feng retreated, he only heard a muffled sound coming from the demon ape's body. Ow! Then, as it howled, a large amount of internal organs flowed out from the wound. After suffering such damage, even a monster with such a strong physique could not withstand it in the end. Thump! With a muffled sound, the huge body of the demon ape fell straight to the ground in an instant. Seeing this, Lin Feng was not sure whether the former was really dead, so he hurriedly hit the former with a red fire palm on the head, finishing the blow. Because the vitality dissipated, the demon ape's head had lost energy protection at this time, and was instantly beaten to pieces by fighting skills. He spat out a mouthful of blood again. At this time, under the scorching sun at noon, Lin Feng actually shivered slightly from the cold. Looking at his abdomen that was beginning to freeze, he said bitterly, "It is indeed a second-level ice monster." Although the injury was temporarily suppressed with elixirs, if we don't find a place to completely eliminate the coldness in the body as soon as possible, I am afraid that it may really end with blizzard. The demon ape will die together here. Fighting energy circulated rapidly in his body, temporarily preventing the spread of cold air. He took out his dagger and fiddled with the blizzard demon ape's head. After a while, he took out a white round particle the size of a pigeon egg. The corner of his mouth suddenly cracked, and he smiled. "Hey, this risk is not in vain. I have obtained the first second-level magic core in my life. Captain, there's something going on over there." "You heard it all. Didn't I hear it? Go and search quickly to see if it's that kid. The leader is offering a reward of 100,000 gold coins. Yes. Hearing a noisy sound from the jungle not far away, Lin Feng felt the bad condition still in his body, as well as the fighting energy that was less than 20% and was still rapidly depleting. He frowned slightly, then put away the magic core and the body of the magic beast, and quickly ran away in one direction, thanks to Candle of Darkness for the recommendation vote. Thanks to book friend 20210301104148357470 for the recommendation vote. Thank you Lu Yifan for the recommendation ticket. Thanks to Bing Tianyue for the recommendation vote.